What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear with coaches Skip Hill, Andrew Berry, and myself, Scott McNally. All of our programming is brought to you by you, the people of Patreon. Thank you guys for joining us, and thank you for all your support. If you're new to our content, let me encourage you to subscribe and hit the bell, guys. We have several bodybuilding podcasts that come out each week. Today, we're talking with Skip and Andrew. The three of us have been coaching for a long time. We're going to try to help share our education with you. We've also got a bunch of other stuff. And we're brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK over there, and SupplementSource.ca for our Canadians. Let's jump straight into some leg training. We didn't talk training on the last episode. So this is from James. He's over at Patreon. We try to give priority to Patreon people. He says, when it comes to conventional squats, is it more beneficial to go parallel compared to the old ass to grass depth? I've noticed when I've moved past parallel, I end up getting really sore, like injury kind of sore in my right hip flexor for the next several days. But when I go parallel, I don't experience this at all. Also, and then he had a question for Dave. So that was something else.
What did Andrew?
I guess I go back and forth on this because I think it just depends on the person's anatomy, right? For instance, if you're a really tall person, it's probably not a great idea to go ass to grass. And if you're a really, really tall person, like a basketball player, you're probably not doing back squats. You're going to be doing front squats because of your femur length. So that plays a role into it as well. There's so many factors. And then we're talking about the hip pain. Okay, well, is that something that you need to be working mobility wise, or is it just directly related to going as low as you're going? Because what's the last thing most bodybuilders want to do is mobility work. At least when you're young. When you're in your 20s to 30s, that's a foreign word. Like, you don't even understand what that means. You have no idea what warm-ups mean, or mobility, or prehab, or any of that stuff. You get to 30, 32, that you start to perk up and start paying attention and doing all these little different exercises, stretches, warm-ups. You get to 36, 37, 38. That's a good 20 minutes before you even start lifting a weight, right?
And then you start going to Swiss, right, Skip?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they can't understand why the demographic is older. I'm like, it has to be.
I'm listening to Andrew. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Were there any 22 to 25-year-olds in that audience?
There were, but it was a limited, and it was a concern of theirs, and they were trying to reach a younger demographic, and I get it, I understand, but the people who are in tune with that type and that quality of information are people who have dealt with injuries, or they see them coming down the pike and they're trying to be preventative, or they're trying to fix injuries that they've already had so that they don't have them again. So it's an experienced audience. Let's put it that way.
We'll put it another way too. If you're a 22 to 25-year-old guy and you don't have a ton of injuries yet, but you also don't have a ton of money to spend on education for that kind of stuff, it's either like, hey, I could buy my next cycle for the next 4 months, or I could spend that same amount of money to go to somewhere where, sure, it's valuable information, it doesn't necessarily apply to me yet. Like, if you ask me when I was 22 to 25, I ain't going to I'm not going to Swiss. I'm not paying $400 or $500 for a ticket, even though it's going to be valuable information for me in the future. There's just a lot more other things that I have to spend that money on.
Yeah, and it definitely will put you, if you are in that younger demographic, going to Swiss would put you ahead of the game.
It's
guaranteed. It's just, I agree with what you're saying, though, Andrew. It's just not something that on the priority list gets pushed to the top. It's like, I'll go next year. Well, if you wait long enough, they may not continue to do it, or not do it as frequently. So there's that. It was the hip pain that got me. I was almost waiting for it because ultimately depth comes, and I agree with everything Andrew said. Ultimately, depth in the squat comes down to, like you said, flexibility, mobility. It's that pelvic tilt that you have to watch out for. As soon as the hips start to tuck under, and they basically they turn posterior, and when you're young, you can get away with it because your SI and everything else is kind of rubbery. It's a little more. Exactly. Much better word. I like rubbery though. It's anyway, pliable. We'll go pliable. You're going to get away with a lot of things that you're not going to get away with 10 years later, 15 years later. So I say go to the depth that you can get before your hips start to turn under. And that's not just for squatting. That's for leg pressing. That's for it's a reason not to do vertical leg presses, because of any leg press or compound leg exercise that you could do, that one is usually going to provide the most vulnerability, because
100%.
you better use a short range of motion on that. In fact, I'd go so far as to say just use it for calves, because it's great for calves and a huge vulnerability for any type of quad training. But that's and mobility, because if you do have tight hamstrings, or you have tight hip flexors, piriformis, whatever, it could just be that you need to be more flexible, and then you can get more depth. But I don't think anybody's losing. And if you asked me this 20 years ago, I would have had a different answer. I don't think anybody is losing leg size going to parallel versus dropping below. I really don't. I think that one of the biggest mistakes made with squatting these days is that it's more of a powerlifting, or people who do more powerlifting squats where they're more bent over, they're not as upright, and what that does is, I think it's one of the main reasons that glutes and adductor development has gone out of control, in my opinion. The quads are arguably, they could be better, but when you factor in the adductors and the glutes and how much bigger the adductors and glutes are, I don't think the legs are that much more impressive. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like saying, would you want to add 8 inches to your chest back measurement, but add 6 to your waist? No. I'd want to keep my glutes and my hips as small as possible and build my legs as big as they can get. And I don't think squatting is, and I know that I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, so I'll try to keep it from doing that. But I think that the squatting is overrated for bodybuilders as far as hypertrophy is concerned. I said it, I stand by it, and that's what now there are some people who can squat and they'll get great leg development from it. But I think it's kind of more the exception to the rule, and that those people are more outliers, or the exception to the rule. Power, strength, great.
What do you pick? What do you guys pick for, say, like you're looking for overall quad development? What's your go-to?
I want more quad dominant exercises for pressing, and if you get into a Smith machine, you can play with your foot placement so much more.
That's what I was going to say.
Things like that. There's just more control over the angles and the foot hip position than when you're free weight barbell squatting.
I'll say this, because you guys have both commented on Nate's Spears' leg development and how he's really brought him up over the last couple of years. We still go very heavy, but the weight is not the important factor. We're still trying to be progressive with the weight, but feeling it in the quads on our quad day, that is the important factor. So with the hack squats, we're putting our feet in the position where we're going to get our knees over our toes enough that it's putting the tension on the quads. We're not using the glutes. We're not using the hamstrings or lower back to help. Same thing with, even something as simple as the lunge, making sure you're biasing those towards your quadricep versus your glutes and hamstrings, because you can lean forward a little bit and you can get a little bit more ham glute development or activation, or you can just keep your chest upright and then purposely push your knee over your toe as you're taking those steps to get that quad activated more. So yeah, I think, like you said, Skip, it's picking exercises, but then doing them in a way that's going to bias them towards the quads. That's the most thing. I don't think the exercise selection necessarily matters. It's making sure you're biasing them towards the quads.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have here? What about this one? Juan from the live stream. He says, do you ever get tired or disappointed working with competitors? I find that when you have someone grateful, willing to learn, hardworking and respectful, it's such a rewarding journey. But unfortunately, I often see people with egos, especially when they're not first-time competitors, that you end up wanting to. They want to argue everything and tell them, basically that things should be done differently.
This is a touchy one for me.
Yeah.
It is, because I don't want to send the message that I don't like working with competitors, because I do. But I'm going to be completely honest, and I pulled back from it in 2012 because it was getting to the point where I felt like it was the bane of my existence. I didn't like the type of person that I was dealing with more often than not. And what I did come to realize is this. It may happen more with competitors, but it's based more on that person's personality and almost character traits. Like, as an example, and I'm trying to be careful here because I don't, I want to be respectful, but I want to be honest. If a person comes to me and has or thinks that they have all of this knowledge and they want to impress me with their knowledge, it is not going to work. I know, because I've been doing what I do so long, that they are going to battle me. They're going to challenge me and everything. And here's the catch. I don't mind. and my current clients and anybody who's worked with me, well, not anybody. There are going to be some who may disagree because they fall into the category that I'm talking about, but not a ton of them. But still, if you respect the knowledge of your trainer, and this is how I look at it, if you're going to pay me and you know my reputation, you know who I am, I naturally assume that you respect my knowledge and my experience, or you wouldn't be coming to me. If you have all the answers, then just prep yourself. Or at least tell me in the beginning, I just want a second set of eyes. I want to bounce ideas off of you. And I want to kind of, I want to be a big part of the decision-making process. I might be willing to do that if the client is willing to accept that if they don't come out where they wanted to come out, that I didn't have total control over the entire plan and making the decisions myself.
It can definitely get sorry, I was going to just try to jump in and say,
I've been in that position, and it's a tough one. I had a big one, a big higher profile pro who I made a mistake and I compromised on an approach, and then was, in my opinion, scapegoated and ended up losing that client, and it really left a bad taste in my mouth. And in part, it was my fault, but there was confusion on what needed to be done, what was being done, whether the plan was being executed or whether it was being changed, and it was found out later that it was changed. And I think we've all had those situations. They're not common, but when you do it long enough, those things do leave a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth. And I just, speaking for myself, I think it's more of a personality trait than it is a competitor. Though competitors are more OCD, they're more black and white. They sometimes aren't terribly compromising. Yet the good ones, the ones who are soldiers and they execute, almost always are better and go further and progress. And I'll leave it at that.
Agreed.
I just sent you a message, Scott, of a story that I put up the other day, because literally everything that Skip is saying was going through my head on that day. Just check-in after check-in with competitors was just making me facepalm over and over again.
Did you say send it on Instagram or?
No, I texted it to you.
Okay, I'm waiting for it to come through then. My computer's a little slow sometimes.
I thought your phone was upstairs.
I'm on my computer, Skip.
I'm kidding.
Oh, no, it says it's sent.
Yeah, it's.
But anyway,
yeah. My phone. It might be on my phone.
Yeah,
my phone's upstairs.
I like that.
So
there's just a point to execute. Just.
Well, because you use the word that I've always used, and I think we've agreed it when we both spit it out together on the phone one day, Skip, soldiers, right? Mm-hmm. You hired us for a reason. We're the general or commanding officer, unless we have this arrangement where it's a second set of eyes, right? Now, right. I have that relationship with several clients because we've been together long enough. Yep. We can practically come to the same conclusion, or sure. The person knows that I respect them enough to listen to what they're saying as a slightly different approach. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I just made a post and it said, the longer I do this, the more I realize that when working with the coach, I was a dream client. I literally followed the plan. I didn't ask ridiculous questions regarding unrelated variables. Did I mention I just followed the plan? Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, and I got to say that us and podcasts like us and educators out there, we are partly to blame for this because we impart this information that people didn't have 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, dude, it's terrible nowadays how much there is. There's so much information.
And to Skip's point about, I think bringing up variables or trying something different, we set you on a plan. It's not that we don't know those variables that you're talking about. It's just that we don't think that they are something that we need to address right now, right? We set this plan in motion. And again, we always say coaching is basically reacting, right? We started a plan. We want to see how it's going, and we will make those changes. Like, we're competent enough people to do that because we've replicated it with thousands of athletes on stage over the years, coming in shape, winning pro cards, winning classes, etc. So, I mean, I could really go down a tangent on this because sometimes when I start thinking about it, Jesus Christ, like, just fall in line, just do what I'm asking, please, But so I do think, like I said, we're part of the problem there in a sense with educating people with some of these answers, but then people get a glimpse of what we're talking about and don't necessarily know how to apply it properly. But I do want to finish with, because Skip had a poor situation with a top level client who kind of threw him under the bus for pulling some audibles, right? Mm-hmm. I've had a client where we had a great season last year. We brought him into his best shape. He looked ridiculous. He won his class at the Cutler. He wouldn't mind me saying his name. It's Jeffrey Sue. He did a great job, and he came in shape. But then he wanted to go and do Easterns, and he wanted to try some different approaches on his own. And just kind of, throwing the ideas at me, I really kind of stopped commenting because I just like, hey, you're doing this one on your own. I don't want to mess this up for you. Yeah. And it did not work as well. He didn't look as good, but he was the first to say that he pulled these audibles. He didn't try to throw me under the bus and say I did something wrong. He took full, and he sent me a great message afterwards, and we're working together still, That's so. And he's a good coach himself too. So he wanted to try something. It didn't work out, but he didn't throw me under the bus by saying that I set him up on this plan. So, and I respected that just as much as I was disrespecting the client that did that to you, Skip, because we know who you're talking about. Yeah. So there is some good, there is some bad there, but I could go off on tangents for hours on this. Just be a soldier if you hire us. Just get in line.
Thinking about this from both of your stories, I think at times it can make your job harder, my job harder as a coach, when somebody starts thinking that, like, well, what if we did things differently, especially if they're not at a level like you said, Andrew, you're listening to information online and you get an idea and you say, oh, well, what about this? It can be hard. I prefer, I'll use an example of a guy that I've worked with for over a year now. He's doing really good at this moment. Like, things have really come together and I've seen him really evolve. When we first started working together, he told me, no, I only use these 2 compounds for his cycle. He's like, that's just what works for me. And he had a very specific way of doing it. It didn't really make a lot of sense to me. And I didn't think it was really ideal for his goals either. And I was like, okay, I'm hands off. If somebody wants to do that, I'm like, yeah, I'm hands off with that. That's fine. We can still reach your goals. He wasn't getting on stage. Like, we can still reach your goals and everything. It's just, that's what you're doing with the anabolics. I'll handle everything else good. So I finally next time he was going to run a cycle, I came around to him and I was like, hey, would you be open to trying something new? And it took some additional explaining, but at the end of the day, he trusted me. And what's been really cool is to see his perspective opened now, because it worked out really well. And I'll tell you what, as a coach, it takes a lot more investment of time and energy and patience to kind of go through that and explain things. And the thing I was thinking in your story, Skip, I'm just kind of commenting on all this. It's almost like if I'm the navigator and you're the driver, and that, the client's the driver, that's the way I see it. I'm navigating, and if we start having a conflict, man, it can go south really fast. Like, it can be no question. Mess.
I use the comparison that I hand you the tools to build your dream home. And if you start smacking yourself in the face with a hammer, that's not my problem. I mean, I'm not telling you to hit yourself in the face. But as far as explaining things, I mean, my clients will say, I have no problem. I expect that trainers will give the whys and the hows, like explain it versus, it's a guarded secret. And usually a guarded secret means I don't have the answer. So just do what I told you to do. And I've told clients before, if you're not working with me, you're working with someone else. If the trainer can't explain to you why they want you to do something, then you ought not to be doing it. Because if they can't, if there's no reason or they can't explain it, then I know I would question it. I would want to know why. That's not the issue with me. I don't have any problem explaining things. What happens, though, is over the explanations, you start to pick up, oh, okay. Much like Andrew was saying, there's so much information. This didn't happen 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
It's not
they
the
just
explaining.
Listened.
Yeah, it's not the explaining of why we're doing something that gets to be tiring. It's the explaining of why we're doing this and not this,
Sure,
this, and this.
It's like I'm selling you.
Yes, I don't want to sell.
Yeah, yes. And I'm not a salesman. I'm just a prep guy. I'm not going to sell you to work with me, and I'm not going to sell you on my methods. This is what you came to me to do. So, and this is why this will work this way. Skip loading works this way. Now, rarely do I get somebody who comes to me and doesn't know what skip loading is. But when I do, then I have to explain this is why, and I have no problem with that. So, it's just when it gets down into the, oh man, this client doesn't trust the process. This is gonna be tough, and it doesn't happen all that often. I'll go through phases where it just, like Andrew said, it does get to you, and it just becomes this giant eye roll. It's just do it. Just do it and watch how it works. And there have been other times where those same people go, okay, I didn't think that would work. It worked. But then continue to challenge you because that's their personality. That is a characteristic of them. They're very, I don't even know that it's controlling. I'm sure some people are.
There's some type A in there for sure.
You know, I ended up, one of my clients, and he's a good guy. I ended up that we, on good terms, parted ways because I said, you have the knowledge to be able to do this yourself and make these decisions and these calls on your own. You have been making a lot of these calls on your own anyway and telling me later what you did. So save the money, save the hassle, save the tension, and just do it on your own. And that way you can own that success and your progress all on your own.
Hey, what's up, guys? I have a lot of people who reach out to me on a regular basis who are trying to more effectively reach their goals. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is that they're not getting enough protein. And there's only so much chicken breast we can eat through the day, but we can easily add a high-quality protein supplement to boost those numbers up. True Nutrition has just about every protein powder you can think of, from high-quality whey isolate. If you don't tolerate lactose, then you could use their beef isolate, or you could use their pea protein isolate if you don't eat animal products. They literally have everything you'd think of. I've believed in them for like a decade before they advertised with us, and they never went out of their way to say like, hey, we want to promote our stuff through you. I literally asked them because it's a company that I believe in, and at the end of the day, I want to see you guys reach your goals as effectively as possible. So if you use our code THINK at True Nutrition, you'll get some savings, you'll help to support our programming, and you'll get some high quality products to more effectively reach your goals faster. Hardest training block you've ever had. It doesn't necessarily even have to be the heaviest or the highest volume or the one which you made the most progress, but more along the lines of most mentally exhausting, challenging training that you've ever done.
That's easy for me. The 100 rep Defendus training. And he's down here in Delray. I didn't know that until about 6 months ago, but he trains people down here in Delray. And I was training there for a while at the Powerhouse in Delray. I was hoping to bump into him because the guy who owned it, Tim Anderson, he was good friends with John Defendus and had trained with him for a long time. But he ended up that he had to close down the Powerhouse. It never did officially open. He ran into problems. But that John Defendus training, and apparently the guy is still jacked and huge at like 60. Or in his early 60s.
Is he like real intense too, isn't he?
Oh man, like
he had 100 reps sets. What do you think?
Yeah. And not only that, but high volume. I mean, it's just insane training. That is easily the most demanding shit I've ever done, and I never went back to it. I think I did it for 2 weeks, and I just wanted to die.
I would say probably 2018 contest prep, where it was just injury after injury, trying to work around it. But then also, like I tore a bursary sac off my hip. I tore my bicep then. a day before the show, 2 days before the show. But and it was one of those preps where like I just probably shouldn't have competed that year, but being headstrong, like I was on 0 carbs and very low fats at like 6 weeks out, 2.5 hours of cardio, eventually 2.5 hours of cardio on top of 3 20-minute walks a day. Like it was a very mentally and physically demanding prep. So, yeah. So, and you know, if your body's not in a great state, that's what made the training hard, you know, because it wasn't like I did 100 rep sets or, you know, I was following one of John Meadows' programs, I believe at the time. I just remember going into the gym every day, legs felt heavy, you know, lifting my arms up to do side lateral raises without any weight. Already felt like I had 20s in them, that kind of hard, you know? So
did you feel like you lost much size relative to other shows when you got that week that year?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But okay. My legs had definitely downsized by the end of that prep because the amount of cardio I had to do and I couldn't train them effectively. Like I was on, I think I tore the bursie like at 7 weeks out. Me and Nate were doing leg press just on a warm-up set, right? And it had been hurting me more and more every week for about 4 weeks until finally just pop. And like he had to grab the weight and pull it off me. And then of course, being an idiot, I tried to do squats right after that. And I tried to go down once and I almost fell backwards. But for most of that prep, I was on leg extensions, leg curls, abduction, adduction, and then some like 3/4 rep hack squats, like, and even then it was still excruciating. So yeah, I definitely, like, I wasn't able to train my legs effectively. So
I had one contest season where that, like, I got into shape and then I just decided like keep going. And I was like, I don't care if I lose muscle type thing. I came in, ballpark would have been about 15 pounds lower than I did the previous year or previous season, which was like 18 months ago. And I was absolutely peeled, but I definitely was like absolutely depleted, and I definitely came in smaller. I remember that. I wouldn't even call it like the most intense for me, just because it was like I couldn't get any momentum. You know what I mean? It was just like, I remember that was the one time that like Shelby actually was like kind and like took a weight for me and racked it. And, you know, like he was thinking of me when we were training together. But I will say this. I remember when I first started training with him that it was like I wasn't used to the length of the workouts. We train like 2.5, 3 hours, and there's like a good amount of volume. And it took me a while to build up it was just like the conditioning to be able to do a workout for that long. And then after about 6 months, I could handle it. And it was VJ and I both started training with him at the same time. And after about 6 months, I could hang with that and I could do that. But then somebody else would pop in from out of town or something to work out with us. They couldn't hang. They couldn't do it. Like you would just be utterly wrecked. And because I remember that first 6 months, I was like utterly wrecked, like just like unhealthy. Like I felt like the way I used to explain it was after I trained, I felt like I'd been in a car accident. Not like anything in particular hurt, but I just felt like my central nervous system was just like screwed up. You know, and you get like kind of
it was
cold sweats. You know what I mean? And random things are locking up on you. But then after 6 months of that, I got used to it, and I think I was better for it. So, did we really need to do all that? Yeah, obviously it wasn't the best for me. I didn't like turn pro doing it.
Worked for Shelby.
Yeah, it worked for him. Yeah, it worked for him really well. You know,
he just needed a couple other knuckleheads to be able to push him through to make sure he did the 3 hours.
That's really what it came down to.
Because he knew that's the amount of volume and time I need. But fuck those other guys. They might be better on an hour and 10-minute, HIIT type training program. But for him, he's like, nah, I just need another set of eyes there to make sure I'm still going hard. 2 hours into it.
Well, I kept training with him even beyond the point that I knew it was beneficial for me. Like, because I loved, it was fun. I loved the workouts. I started going to more higher frequency, except for back day. I still kept, for the longest time, back 1 day a week, every Wednesday.
Yeah.
What else do we have here? I know we had a bunch more. We did the squat question. How about this one here? We did that T3 question. We did that one. We did this one. Skip, where's your questions at?
I sent
I
it
shot
to
them to you on your, not Andrew, not our group text. Sorry, I didn't even realize that until later.
Got it. Okay, so the next one is, sorry guys. That's what happens when I talk at the end of a topic and then I'm not prepared. We talked about melanotin dosing just like recently. We've been talking about that a lot lately. What are your thoughts on running Primo with my TRT at a 1-to-1 ratio? I have problems with high aromatization of estrogen. At just 60 milligrams of test per week, my estradiol was 35. I'm hoping that if I run 100 Primo and 100 test, maybe I can get my test high enough to feel good and maintain muscle, but not have to take an AI.
How do they know?
I'm trying to figure, is he saying that you have to take an AI with an estrogen of 35?
No, but I think he wants to bring his test up, but he's just assuming that he's going to have to take. And I'm saying, well, if you haven't taken your test up and then tested your estradiol, how do you know yet? Because
that's where I would go
it's
first.
not always just this like clear cut, okay, if you're on this, TRT dose or even this natural dose, your estrogen's here. Once you bring your test up, like, because we've seen people that, they might be taking 600 milligrams of testosterone and no other drugs, and their estradiol stays completely normal. So I'm saying, advice to him, I would bring your test up to maybe another 200 milligrams and then test it like 2-3 weeks in, test your estradiol 2 to 3 weeks in and see if you do require the use of an AI.
Yep.
Or is he asking about Primo?
Yeah, or add Primo.
Well, I would do it just testosterone first, so then he'd get that information. And then if it is high, I would definitely go with the Primo.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have here? Okay, we covered. Yeah, we covered. I was just going to that actually. We covered this on drugs and stuff earlier this week. You read my mind. It really could be either female or male, but it says, hey guys, I'm a female from the UK competing in the US later this year. I'd like to follow my normal gear protocol coming into the show, but I'm unsure if I'd be able to take the small amount of gear with me. It's all tablet form in my suitcase. This would be a few tabs of Winnie and Clen. I take 20 micrograms of Clen per day and 10 milligrams of Winnie per day leading into the show. And I also have a few tabs of Anadrol the night before and morning of the show. I'm most likely going to arrive 3 days before the show. Can you please give me any advice? I'm worried that if I drop my Clen, that it will interfere with my carb load, etc. going into the show. Thanks.
I would absolutely pack it in vitamin bottles, and this isn't professional advice. I'm just saying what I would do. I would pack it in some vitamin bottles. No one knows. It doesn't say Winstrol illegal steroids on it, and just follow your normal regimen if you've had success with it. No. Let me tell you, when me and Nate went to Canada, and we had for the Vancouver, and we were trying to we talked to Ron Partlow about maybe possibly getting some stuff for us should we need it.
Yes,
but we go all through customs and all that. They didn't even look at us. Like we're like. We could have brought fucking GH. We could have brought like anything. They didn't ask to open our bags. They didn't look at it, and they didn't ask to look at anybody's. Like it was literally just a conveyor belt line of people, and they just let us right in. They're so polite up there.
Yeah, it's not always that way. I promise you.
I know. Meadows told me a story where he got like strip searched, and like he had a TRT prescription, and they held him there in the office for like 3 hours till they could get a hold of his doctor to verify if it was a real prescription.
Oh, you're kidding!
Really?
I think. Well, you got to remember, John was peeled.
Yeah,
and his face looked like Skeletor.
Oh, you couldn't hide that face.
You couldn't hide that face.
No.
There's a picture of him that looks like a shredded Hellboy. Remember that movie? It's on the internet somewhere. It was a video when him and Sean Clarita won. I think it was the Vancouver, and John got like 4th. So it would have been 2016, I believe, or 15. And they're all in a limousine afterwards. I think Fuad did the show too, and his face. And of course, we talked on the last show about how some people can get in contest shape and have that moon face still.
Yeah.
Well, Sean still has the moon face, right? You wouldn't even know he was peeled out of his mind underneath the clothes. But John, like, you could see like the different scratch marks on the bones of his occipital bone. Like it was wild. He looked like a dead person.
Yeah, he had definitely a certain look. And I bet, you see his face, you wouldn't even have to know if he was big or not. You know what I mean? But that's another question, though, is like, how jacked does she look? Is she, I'm guessing by her cycle, she's probably not like women's open bodybuilding, and she's probably not going to go through wearing like like leggings and a tank top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think there's something to be said, too, about like,
Well, just don't wear a tank top or a tube top.
Yeah, cover up.
Yeah, play it low key. Another thought is get a domestic. Just like, talk to people who live here.
You mean like people on the show?
No, don't talk to people on the show.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, hit up Skip at teamskip.com. The mail that works too.
Yeah, but it's going through customs, so
yeah, I'd be more apt to just bring it in vitamin bottles.
Yeah.
Okay, because I said the mail before, because I've done that domestically, is what
Domestic's different.
Yeah. Okay, thoughts on growth, IM or sub-Q?
Yes,
I think
yes.
you're a sub. Oh, I thought you were a sub-Q guy, Andrew. No.
Listen, I'm lazy, so like, if I was wearing a tank top and my chest was right here and I was taking it after workout, I just go like that. If my arms were exposed, I put in my tricep.
Pulp Fiction style.
Yeah, man. Like sometimes I do sub Q, sometimes I do IM. It literally depends on. Oh, there's some put in my quad. Sometimes like it wasn't a thought out process because GH is going to work no matter where and when you put it.
Yep.
Where do you put it? What do you do?
Yeah,
I'm usually IM. I mean, I'll go in my rectus femoris or outer part of my lower quad just because, there's always that part of your brain that goes, just in case.
Yeah.
You end up with 3 extra cells that want to grow locally. You know what I mean? That sort of weird. Yeah. That sort of weird thing. But yeah, it's usually I put a lot of shit in my buys because it's just so easy. Insulin, everything else. But I don't know. I do my insulin right before I, work out, usually at the gym, and it's easy to drop it into your quad without having to take your shirt off or a sweatshirt or something like that too. So whatever's convenient. But I'm usually an IM guy.
When you guys took carnitine, where would you put it?
I haven't taken injectable carnitine a lot, but I put it in my quads.
Same.
I'm one of those guys that a lot of people hate quad shots. I've got more scar tissue in my quads. Well, maybe my delts, but in my quads because they're just right in front of your face. Like I think I've hit my glutes 7 times in my entire life. I'm not going to inject what I can't see. Yeah, I'm not going to inject what I can't see. I have to hold it backwards, try to plunge it with a small finger, my pinky finger. No, I'm not doing that.
You got to have monkey arms like me then.
Yeah, it just does not work. My wife gives me a lot of shots though too.
I would never. I don't put oil in my quads. That one bad shot was all I needed, even though it was actually my 3rd bad shot. But to the point where I couldn't even like flex it. And I had a posing session with Kenny Wallach, and of course he comes up and he smacks my leg. He's like, "Why aren't you flexing this one?" I'm like, "Kenny." I felt that one go up and down my spine.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had an abscess in my quad one time, and I've never been a big quad fan. I'll do L-Carnitine and stuff. I'll do either like a shoulder or a tricep. I'll do tricep as well.
Yep.
But I've taken small amounts now that you can get like the 600 milligram, and I'll do like a 0.5 milliliter, something like that, 300 milligrams, which I'm going to get back on that pretty soon.
It burns like fire.
Remember the 3 cc's?
Man, I hate it.
I stayed away from it. I never messed with it for that reason.
Oh, really?
Never messed with it. I was like, no, dude, I already take enough stuff. I'm not taking a vitamin that has to be 3 cc's every day. You know?
I was taking 3 cc's of that every prep.
I know I was when it was because it was higher volume, and I just and I will never inject one side and not the other. So it was always bilaterally. I always have done that. I will always continue to do that.
We had a question here. Let me see. I'll make it the last question of the day here. Guys, love the show. Do milligrams matter more than the compounds?
No. Trend is a good example right there. I mean, it's just so. When you get together with the others like the test and EQ, and it could be argued that We go higher on dosing.
Wait.
There are some compounds I think that don't qualify for the total milligram. Think about it: 1,000 milligrams of tren versus 1,000 milligrams of testosterone cypionate. There's a big difference there.
What about, like, say, 3 grams of Primo versus 1,000 milligrams or 1 gram of tren?
Well, yeah, but that's different. I mean, because
okay. So we're saying all things being equal. Is that
like milligrams, right? Is that right, Scott?
Milligram. Yeah.
Okay. I got you. Well, I thought if someone's like, well, if I could either do some test and 500 milligrams of tren, or I could do some test and 2,000 milligrams of Masteron. Which one do you think's healthier?
It's just like, is 1 milligram of test the same as 1 milligram of Vanadrol kind of thing?
Oh, no. not a chance. No. When you put it that way, no.
Scott just did a Muscle Minds with me that we go deep into this idea that all compounds are equal. And there's been kind of a belief it or not, throughout the bodybuilding community that, like, it doesn't really matter what you're taking. If you're taking Primo or you're taking test, that you're going to basically more or less get the same effect. And I think there is something to be said for, like, whatever works best for you. Like you said before, Skip, when we were talking about, like, hey, if we did the Primo versus Deca, which is better, on the other episode. And you're like, well, which do you respond to? Like, do you get side effects? Like, some people, they don't do good with Deca. Some people, like you said you don't do really good with Primo. So there's that. But then looking at the science of it, the study Scott had showed that, like, if basically, like, his analogy, which I thought was so good, was that if you take, like, most of your commercial cars out there and you drive them all as fast as you can, they're all going to go, like, around 120, 130 miles an hour. Like, if I take, like, my Mini compared to, Victoria's Honda, like, these cars, they're all, if we take them on the freeway, we open them up, they all kind of might level off at a certain point if we went to, like, multiple grams. But the nuances are different in the lower ranges, so that you're going to see more difference in various compounds in those ranges that we're more likely to take them.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly see where that's possible, but I'd rather drive a modded M5 than I would a Kia. I'd rather, I don't know.
Well, you're not going to take them all to, because, like, some of the doses were crazy.
That's what I was thinking too. So we're below that threshold.
Right.
So we want the most power or the most torque, out of the smaller doses. And I think it's still, I don't think Scott would say that. I don't think he would think that 500 milligrams of tren is equivalent to 500 milligrams of Primo.
No. He like I said, he that's the common belief, is that all compounds are created equal, right? Yeah, and Scott was saying that if you take a ton of each one of them, then there's a certain point where, like, you're going to have a ceiling effect for all anabolic steroids. But otherwise, another analogy would be, like, that's kind of like saying all NSAIDs are the same,
right.
But there's a lot of variation and difference in that, the ranges that we use them. But it was crazy to see, like, Nandrolone was really strong. Really, Nandrolone had a really good benefit, like, stronger than Anadrol as far as growth went. You guys will have to watch it when it comes out, though. But what he was saying, though, is that no, that's not true. It's not true that everything is equal in the real world with us using compounds.
But he's saying that there's a general belief between the general public of users that, like, all things are kind of equal, milligram for milligram.
He's not saying that as much.
I'm just trying to get it clear. He's saying the opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly. We've been asked that a lot.
I don't think
lately.
I would disagree that there's a general consensus on that, though, from the typical PED user. I mean,
you'd be surprised, man. You'd be surprised how many people are kind of accepting that all steroids are going to grow the same amount of muscle.
Yeah. This question itself kind of, because I see where you're going, Andrew, but then even just the fact that the question was asked, are they all the same? And, I was pretty quick to go, hell no.
Okay, well, then I will say this. Those that have been taking PEDs for 10 years or 5 years, experienced PED users, do not have that belief. So maybe it's a newer crowd. Maybe it's a crowd that is just getting into PEDs in general. And maybe it's also not a crowd that's taken things to 2 grams plus a week for, say, a contest prep or for, a really big off-season cycle is what I'm kind of getting at. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's all the questions we have, guys. Skip, you got anything for us?
I can throw a word in there if you want a word.
Oh, you got a word?
Let's see. I'll throw in, and this one people may know because I didn't have this one planned, but it just kind of struck me. But Nefarious, right? Ooh. It's by definition, it's just wickedly evil. So if someone has they're laughing nefariously, then they're laughing, wickedly evil. There's some shit like that. I don't know. Well, the Thriller, the laugh at the what's the guy's name? Who does the? That's terrible. It's right there.
Vincent Price.
Anyway,
Vincent Price.
Yes, thank you, Vincent Price.
You had to be from the '80s and know Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
I know the laugh. I just don't know the name.
That would be a nefarious laugh, or when the Joker laughs, or something like that.
So is it just? I know the word, but are you saying it just relates to laughing?
No, no. Someone can be nefarious. They could just be wickedly evil.
Okay.
Or have nefarious motives.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I like that one. That's good.
That's a relatively common. I'm going to stick with more common words that can be used in conversation. You don't hear rhodomontading very often, even though it's a good word. I do like it. I heard that on Billions. I'm the type of guy that I'll be watching a show and I'll hear something and I have to stop it. And my wife will roll her eyes because I'll Google a word. I'll be like, I have not heard that word before. And that's where I heard rhodomontading. I'm like, oh man, that's good. I like that. So those are the shows. The Billions is a good example. The more intellectually superior. I'm watching The Sopranos. I've never seen The Sopranos before.
You're kidding me.
Shut the show off.
I know. Isn't that horrible? I'm only 2 seasons in, but I'm like, how could I not watch this? It's such a great series.
Have you seen The Wire?
30 years old.
Have you seen The Wire?
I don't think I have.
I didn't. I started watching it, and there's a little bit too much of the heroin, so I was like, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, but they're fighting against the heroin.
Yeah.
They're getting it off the streets.
You guys Yellowstone fans?
I haven't seen it yet. I heard it's really
arriving.
good.
They're arriving for filming for the last half of the last season. My client who has the gym there in Darby, she said that they are starting to roll in now. So they'll be starting production in May for the last half of that season. It's been almost 3 years. But they're also going to do another 1883 series. And that was big too. It's just a really good show. I'm just really disappointed that it has taken 3 years. I think that's pretty crappy. Ozark did something similar. And I think that's terrible when it's not the top priority because it's really important to the fans and the people. They've been paid. So it's kind of crappy that
the owner is so busy with projects. What's his name?
Costner.
Huh? No.
Costner.
He's not the owner.
Oh, I thought it was a conflict for Kevin Costner because of other obligations.
Who's the owner of the show in the whole series? And he bought the
Paramount.
Right? No. It's Jesus Christ. He was on Rogan recently.
I don't even know.
No, so he's an actual rancher who's also a writer.
The owner of the ranch.
No. He bought the ranch after he started filming Yellowstone, but he has experience as a real cowboy. But he's also a writer, and he wrote Yellowstone, 1883.
I didn't know that. I didn't know.
He wrote all those shows. Yeah, man, he's a freaking genius if you ask me. Like with some of these concept shows that he's come up with, I don't know why my brain is not.
Taylor Sheridan.
He's got Taylor Sheridan. Thank you.
I don't even know who he is. I just looked it up.
He's one of the main characters in Yellowstone.
I haven't seen it yet.
He's the one. He's the one that drives. He's not like always on the farm, but he's the one that he's like a horse trader, and he comes and picks up the horses and he drives them. He's really good on a horse. Like I can't remember what scene or whatever, but the dude's like a genius for like taking something he's interested in and then blowing it into this mega empire.
Huh. Did you guys see Guy Ritchie TV show called The Gentleman?
I believe I did.
It's very
I think
good.
I did too. Oh,
It's very good. He's a guy who inherits his family property in
Yes,
England.
I saw it.
He's a duke. Yeah. Oh, dude, we're
Thought it was
finishing
good.
it. We're finishing
Yep,
it.
I thought
We
it
got
was
one
good.
episode left.
Oh, yeah, I got halfway through.
Okay, and we
He's
started
that
watching.
annoying brother who's a fuck up, basically.
Yeah.
So,
Did you guys watch Westworld? We just started that again.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks to Nags. It's not available anywhere, so Nags was like, I got a service. I'll get it for you. So Nags got me Westworld. Thank you.
Nice.
Thanks.
What do you mean? It's on HBO.
I don't have that. What do you think?
It's
You rich
it's
people?
$5
You got
$5
these
a
rich
month.
people out
Doesn't have
there?
HBO. I
Dude,
mean,
plus
time
you
out.
check your cell phone company. They might give it to you for free.
I have shit that I don't even watch. I have YouTube TV, and I think I watch like 2 baseball games a year on it.
I'm about to buy YouTube, and it's going to be part of Patreon is going to pay for YouTube because that way we can do reactions without getting commercials.
Okay.
Nice. Westworld season 1 is incredible. Just to forewarn you, it goes downhill from there.
So I saw season 1 before, and I'm prepared to stop watching shortly after that. So,
Oh, you got to see it through though. Like, if I start a show,
Yeah,
I'm
how are
going
you
to
not
watch it
gonna
to the
finish it?
very last
Does
episode,
that?
even if it absolutely sucks.
we stopped watching House of Cards. Did you guys watch House of Cards?
I didn't like
Yes, I
it.
did.
No?
I didn't like it.
We liked the
Didn't like
beginning. We liked it all for the first couple seasons, and then we fell off of that.
It's because it's like basically what you see in the news with like Congress and the president every day as it is. So it's like all you got to do is watch one of the news stations, and that's what really happens. So you know,
And what's that
including
other
all the
one?
murder.
What's that other one? That another presidential show, the Designated Survivor. We watched that. That's Kevin Costner in it.
See,
No, it's got
really?
Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, Keith Sutherland. See, I don't watch shows, so I think that's basically the same guy, isn't it?
I'm big on I'm big on
It's not even
shows.
close to the same guy.
Like they're both actors.
Yeah,
Kevin Costner is an A-list actor. I don't know that Sutherland would be considered a.
Hey, he was the
A-list
president of the United States.
Well, he wasn't.
he was good on 24. 24 kept my attention for a couple
Yeah,
of years.
it's kind of got like that thing going on at first.
Same
you know
idea.
What I mean?
Yeah, same idea.
It goes back to like
We
what, Flatliners, I think. I mean, no.
I think his father's a better actor personally.
Who?
His father, Donald Sutherland.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's a better actor. He doesn't get a lot of big roles, but I feel like he's always a good character actor for whatever part he's playing. But we should just do a show talking about shows sometime.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, we do
I
that a
remember-
lot of
didn't,
times. And it's just bodybuilding at the end. We might talk.
Well, I was
like we
going to
are
say,
right now.
I remember Ron always talking on any of the shows back in the day about the shows he was watching at that time, and I always look forward to it.
Well, what are you guys watching right now?
I'm watching.
I just
Sopranos.
finished Mankind.
Oh yeah, Sopranos.
You guys seen Mankind?
No.
Or no, sorry, Manhunt. Manhunt. I'm sorry.
Manhunt.
It's a story about John Wilkes Booth. You know, after he killed
Oh.
the president. It's a really good story, and it's actually it's pretty factual because I've read like 3 biographies about John Wilkes Booth and about that time period, and it's pretty close to like how he really was.
Okay, what's it called?
Manhunt. It's on Apple TV.
It's on Apple. Okay.
Yeah, Manhunt is like 8 episodes. Oh, you guys want to see the best show I've seen all year? Masters of Air. It's about
Masters
the
of Air.
the World War II U.S. air bombers over in based in Britain, bombing Germany. Like you want to get an idea of what it was like for those guys to be in a bomber ship and have thousands of pieces of shrapnel going through their buddies and going through their ship, and then they got fucking hit by a German MiG, and then time to abandon ship. And dude, having the mindset to be like, I'm going to jump out of this airplane and maybe my parachute's going to work, and then I'm going to land in enemy territory, and I got to somehow find my way back to France. Like, mind blowing.
So that's on
that
Apple
was
TV too.
That's another Apple TV show. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You know, what Victoria really likes is, believe it or not, you if you know Victoria or public persona, you wouldn't think that she likes fishing shows.
Really?
Yeah, she likes not like the old ones that were on ESPN. Like where it's like, hi, my name's Guy Buddy, and I'm going to catch him. Not that guy.
In a flannel, and it's 80 degrees outside.
Hey, watch it.
It's not 80 degrees outside. Actually, it might be in
It's
Michigan.
It's like 50 today, unfortunately.
Oh, really? Oh,
But
I'm sorry.
no, like the
Andrew,
What do they call them? Like the like river monsters type shows, where like today we're going to Thailand and we're going to try to catch this particular fish, kind of thing.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, it's fascinating. I'm into it too.
It shows that are good like that genre are shows where you can find like these professionals that are very passionate about like what they do, and they can explain to you, the audience, like what they do. Like I sent you some stuff the other day, Scott, about this guy I watched that builds houses.
I watched that whole thing, by the way. That house is incredible, man.
That's like the 15th of his video that I've watched. Like,
you're kidding
me.
I
get into these videos of people that go out into the woods and they literally bring an axe and they build log cabins like from scratch, old school stuff.
That's not my thing.
But you also like you use like Instacart and stuff too. So like you're into that ease of life.
This is the work that my hands do.
Look at this house, Skip. This guy built it.
That's totally cool, and I would pay him to build one.
Yeah.
But like what you're saying, Scott, about building like a man cave like studio, like I don't know if you saw the inside, but
I did.
Like that, you could totally deck that out and put a studio in there, right?
You could. All right, let's wrap this thing up, guys. Leave us questions for the next show. And if you're still watching and you're not subscribed, well, shame on you. No, we're happy to have you. And definitely subscribe, because, YouTube might not show us in your algorithm ever again. So if that's the case and you don't hit the subscribe button, guys, it was nice to meet you. Take care, and we'll see you in 2025 randomly. Something like that. Anyway, subscribe, hit the bell. And also, too, I appreciate everybody who's been sharing the shows. You guys share the links and stuff on Instagram. It's freaking huge. You're helping. That's how we grow this thing. So thank you very much. Go to bodyberry.com to reach out to Andrew for coaching. You go to teamskip.com, reach out to Skip over there. mcnallydiets@gmail.com, hit me up. And, of course, supplementsource.ca for Canadians, and truenutrition.com for our people throughout the world, especially in the U.S. Use our code THINK. And thank you to everybody from Patreon. Anything else, Skip?
That'll do.